Floors sketch mode. So this is the sketch that the client has given to us. And so far we've drawn all of the exterior walls. We've drawn all the interior walls as well. We've drawn the post. But now we want to start getting a little bit more in depth on the model. We've even set up some views and some sheets that speak to the end of the process. So speak to having a full set of documents that we can give to the client and they can look at it and make decisions. And this is a little bit of advance of what we're going to be doing in this course. This is that rendering we showed at the beginning of the videos. And you'll notice here that there's a floor. So let's get into how to make this floor. We're really going to focus on what the sketch mode means. We need to focus on this because the sketch mode applies to many objects. And this is only the beginning. There's roofs, there's stairs, there's ceilings, even walls have their own sketch mode. So this is something that we're building a foundation, and this is part of building that proper foundation for building your knowledge in Revit and continuing on. So here we are, we're in our model, and we are in a model that does not have a floor. If I were to switch to the default 3D view, you'd notice no floor. Let's close that view down. So how do we make a floor? Well, in the ribbon, we can click on floor, and we can start going. Now, we're in sketch mode right now, but I want to back up just one step because where are we drawing this floor? What level is it on? What height is it on? Are we drawing a finished floor? Let's discuss that for a little bit, and then we'll get deeper into sketch mode. I'm going to click on Cancel. This is the big X, and now we're out of sketch mode. So what we're doing here is we're going to be drawing an overall basic floor that's just going to cover, it's just going to provide like a base to our whole model. And let's section through so that we already have a section drawn. So let's double click on the section head, and that takes us to our section. So notice the levels. We're going to be drawing this floor on top of floor 1. Now, when we talk about levels, what exactly is this level defining? Is it the top of the hardwood, the top of the tile? Is it the top of the joist? Is it the top of the subfloor? Well, what these tend to mean is top of finished structure. So in the case of a residential application like this, there is something below. So there will be a framed floor in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a floor that has a thickness which represents both the joists and the subfloor. So it's just going to be one size of floor and it's going to span all the way. Well, what if we wanted to have this side as hardwood and the other side, maybe the existing is ceramic tile, and we want to indicate that, we want to show it, we want to render it? Well, what we would do, and this is just a best practice that we'll look at in later videos, but to tell you, we would draw a thin floor just in the spot where we wanted that hardwood or those tiles, and that would sit on top of an independent structural floor. So I'm going to double click on top of floor 1. Let's get back into the sketch mode issue. Let's click on the floor tool. This is in the ribbon under the Home tab, and just click floor. All right, now you may have done this by accident before when you're just playing with Revit. You go into click on floor and you think, okay, I'll just draw a floor. And what is all this? Everything's grayed out. All of these other tabs, most of the tools are grayed out. Well, if we go to the tab which has this sort of blue-green color behind it, what this is doing is this is indicating that this is our main tab we're going to work with. And these tools here, draw. These are the critical tools. Now the first tool, the default tool, is pick walls. I would recommend to never use that. Now there are some cases where people use it and it works fine. But as a best practice, I would recommend that you use just the straight sketching tools. Lines, you can use rectangles, you can use whatever you want, but stay away from this one. This little pick tool, that also can be a good tool to use instead of pick walls. There's a few simple rules with sketch mode, and they apply pretty much across the board. So if I click on just the first tool, it's called line. That's probably what you're going to use most. This is going to define the edge of my floor. Now, for our purposes during this Essentials course, we're kind of focused on the interior. So what I would like to do is just draw the floor to the outside of the structure. Now, I know, and you know, that there are times when the floor goes to the inside or Maybe it goes to a front face of a stud with sheathing on it. Those are details that we definitely need to take into account. But for now, let's just look at and concentrate on the core sketch mode rules. So I'm going to start sketching. So this is very similar to just drawing walls or drawing lines in another CAD package. You just click and start drawing. The next point, you'll just click. You'll have snaps that come up, endpoint. Remember, if you're ever looking to override a snap, maybe you want a midpoint and you can't find it, just type in the S for snap and then the first letter of the particular snap that you want to use. Now, in this case, we're going to just stick with endpoints. Few simple rules here. First rule, let's hit escape. So I drew this sketch all the way around, and then I purposely left a gap. First rule, no gaps. Lines must be in closed loops. It's telling me the highlighted lines are open on one end. Always read these warnings or errors. Sometimes they're called a warning, sometimes they're called an error, but always read them. It will not let you finish the sketch. You have to do something to resolve that. Well, how would we resolve that? Best way? Let's just zoom in a little bit. The trim command. So we just click on trim, click on one line, click on the other, and then that will finish off that corner. Hit escape twice, and now we're out of that. Well, what are some other little rules here? Well, as you saw in that error message, lines must form closed loops, and they must meet end to end. That's kind of the same thing said in a different way. I'm going to click on line again, and I'm just going to draw a line out here. Say perhaps there's a bump out of the floor. Is that going to work? I mean, there's no gaps. Let's hit finish. Oh, again, we get an error. Lines cannot intersect each other. So what's happening here is this line, that's the offending piece. How would we adjust that? Well, just remember, we want this to be one loop. So what we might do here is split right there. That breaks this into two lines. Then we could use the trim command to trim the corners. Now it would accept that. Okay, I don't want that though in our sketch. So let's undo. I'm going to drop down the undo button. And let's go back to about there. Good. Okay, final rule. So first rule, let's review. No gaps. Second rule, lines must meet end to end. It has to be a closed loop. Third rule, no overlapping lines. And this one can be a real problem because there can be times when perhaps you're drawing and you double back to pick something. Now, did you notice as soon as I drew that line over top of that other line, it gave me a big warning here. Highlighted lines overlap. Lines may not form closed loops. So it's warning me right away. It does not like an overlapping line. The trick here is that they're hard to see. So if I hit escape and then I go to hit the check mark to save this and continue, it will do its best to highlight where the problem is. And then what I can do is just continue and I can say, well, it's either this line or this line. Let's click that. Let's hit the delete key on the keyboard. And now we're all set. All right, when you're done, if you like what you've done, click the green check mark. That will save the changes and it will exit sketch mode. If you hit the X, it will not save what you've done. It's going to just discard the changes and exit. So you want to hit the green check mark. And there we go. Good. So let's hit escape and let's just do a quick look at our section. Okay, good. We've got a floor there. Let's hit close on that view. We're back to the plan. Let's go to our default 3D view. So I'm just going to click up here in the default 3D view. Okay, so that's starting to look a little bit better. We're starting to get a little bit more of a sense of the space, even just with that floor there.